And we are live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here and around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and let's get started. And we're back. Thank you again for joining me today. So today is July 1st. So the half a year has already passed us by. So Christmas is around the corner. Anyway, so in this week's episode, we'll be talking about interesting things that's been going on in the past week or so. None more so than our first topic, which is about privacy issues and thinking that going on vacations, staying at rentals or hotels would be a ideal location. But think again, owners or establishments are inserting or what do you call this? They are inserting hidden cameras that unsuspecting vacationers will be surprised to find out. Now, whether that's considered legal or not, that would put a lot of caution in terms of whether we should or people should stay in that particular place or whichever establishment that be, and what's to be done about that. Anyway, next we'll also be talking about a new type of smartphone. Nothing too extravagant, but a company is trying to do something different, which is, I think, it's a breath of fresh air. So that variety is always important, innovation is always important. The monotony of providing the same type of smartphone over and over, milking it for what it's worth, can get stale after some time here. So stay tuned for that one. Next, we'll be talking about Amazon's main cash cow in terms of offering Prime subscribership or membership for its key customers, in particular in Northern America as well as in Europe. In terms of its benefits, is it still worthwhile? And therefore, given the plethora of issues that the company is encountering here, we'll talk about that. Next is we'll also be discussing how electric vehicle adoption is one of the main issues that trying to veer away from relying on fossil fuel is important, because obviously that's resources getting depleted as time goes by, and the fact that prices of gas prices has been steadily increasing at a very torrid rate should give us concern for alternative uh, uh, alternative use of vehicles, so to speak. Question here is, the main problems of electric vehicle is its limitation in terms of its charging capability, how far it can run, and it takes a lot of time once it depletes its battery or energy, and you have to refill it. Takes hours, or even some you have to charge it overnight. But the question is, obviously, in real situation when you're driving a vehicle, you can always take that into account, and you don't the fact that you have to worry about, is my car going to make it through the night or the next day and so forth, similar to how we use our smartphones, is can be troublesome here. And lastly, we'll be talking about the first voyage of an electric yacht, which is kind of interesting but kind of concerning as well. But we'll talk about that as well. So without further ado, so let's get it started. So anyway, so you might have noticed today there was a slight delay in terms of brought live streaming here. Had some technical issues, but I was able to rectify it with slight delay here. But anyways, let's get to the meat and potatoes of our discussion here. So first and foremost, as mentioned, cameras in hidden cameras are troublesome if you're staying at a hotel or even rental homes around the world. And according to the article at cnbc.com, there are three easy ways to find hidden cameras in those particular places. So let's take a closer look. Now, According to a survey, nearly 60% of Americans said they were worried about hidden cameras in Airbnb homes in 2019. So this is before the pandemic, and that should give you pause if you're trying to find vacation rentals around the world, if this is going to be a issue moving forward, because obviously privacy is a major thing. I know you want to protect your assets, your property, so that doesn't get damaged, and you can catch people who are doing mischievous activities in said homes. But the problem is there must be a threshold as to what can and cannot be recorded, maybe on the perimeter of the homes if you're renting a house, or maybe outside the apartment, so you can see who's going ins and outs. But inside of the venue, or the place you're renting, there should be some semblance of privacy, because otherwise I won't even dare consider renting those homes for not that you're planning on doing something nefarious, but you don't get to feel the enjoyment or relaxation if there's someone watching over you. So you have to think twice. Obviously, people tend to behave differently if they know they're being watched, right? And it mentions here that 11% of vacation home renters said they had discovered a hidden camera during a stay. So this is pretty alarming, even though it's just 11%. But the fact that homeowners are putting in cameras for whatever their rationale here, for safety purposes and whatnot, is troublesome here. Now, the issue here is not also problematic in the North America, but in South Korea, more than 30,000 cases of filming with hidden cameras were reported by the police in the years 2013 all the way to 2018. So meaning, uh, it borders invasion of privacy, and it's kind of scary, creepy in terms of maybe even if you put it in the common room, in the family room, but you have to allow the visitor to have the option to stay or not, if you're going to place a camera here, because if you do that, no one's going to stay that either way. And if you were to place it covertly and not let the people know, those people who are staying, then are there any ramifications? Are they culpable? Can you sue them? Because obviously, you're providing a service. I don't think uh, privacy is a critical, as with any individual, similar to renting a home, just like how you treat your house. You don't just put any cameras for personal, I don't know, leisure, maybe more on for protection more than anything here. Anyway, the number of hidden spy camera reports has proliferated because of the increased accessibility and inexpensiveness of such cameras, combined with public's growing ability to detect them. According to a CEO of intelligence, Kenneth Bombas, Global Threat Solution. But the point here, it's not an excuse. So I think there should be policies, regulations, or even laws mandating what is allowed and not allowed. And I think this discussion breaches more on invading more on your privacy, and there should be an option whether you you're putting in a camera and whatnot, because if that's the case, I would not venture into those types of accommodations moving forward, whether it's Airbnb accommodation, or maybe in a motel, hotel, whatever accommodations here that you're supposed to be relaxing at your own, not necessarily your own, but in your privacy, and yet lurking somewhere behind you is there are cameras taking videos of your activity here. Now, it's suggested here that you conduct a physical search as to uh, if you're if you have no choice here. So looking for hidden cameras, start with areas like in bathrooms. Ugh. Think about it. You'll see cameras in bathrooms and bedrooms. Creepy. And now Airbnb hosts are allowed to have cameras in their houses, but they must inform guests that the cameras must be placed in private spaces, which is, but the fact that you're putting in cameras is a very alarming case, because there's no such scenario that why you should put cameras where other people are staying in. They're renting your place for for the enjoyment rather than from being gawked at or something, right? Maybe the only case that you have cameras inside the home is maybe, let's say, for security purposes. But outside of that, maybe if you have kids left to their own, so that you can monitor them, that's the only viable situation. But everything else, for rental homes, this is a very slippery slope, and I don't agree with the fact that they are using common devices and placing the cameras in plain sight, so as to give this false sense of complacency and security, which is not to my liking here. Anyway, it mentions another way to identify if there's any hidden cameras is looking at Wi-Fi network. Obviously, typically those cameras are connected wirelessly at homes, and but the fact that if you can detect that, I'll, I'll, I'll leave the house straight away. I'd rather find some other accommodations here. Now, lastly, here's the interesting part. To be able to detect those hidden cameras, you buy a spy camera detector, which is the whole point. So why would I buy something just to be able to make sure if there are hidden cameras here? If they're going to place hidden cameras here, why stay? You have the option to leave and not stay in those places here. And would there be ramifications for the homeowners themselves? Is another thing that needs to be discussed here. It's as if you're in a fishbowl, people or the owners can watch you all day long, record them, and so forth, which is getting more concerning as our technology has become more advanced, more accessible, more affordable for the masses here, which is think of how Apple's AirTags can be misused for nefarious purposes, and making it affordable for those people to use it for those unsightly instances here. We'll see how, if this will have receive any backlash from the consumer, or will this be even more prominent moving forward here. Anyway, next on our topic is we were talking about smartphones here in terms of how technology, especially in smartphones, are getting more what do you call this? Getting more in terms of performance per se, rather than the aesthetics of what the cameras or a smartphone would look like. Very typical, like this one. So it's a rectangular shape with the camera module at the back, the screen in front. But a company is finding ways to differentiate in a sense. Now, whether that would stick, obviously the smartphone industry has become more saturated because practically everyone in the world has already owned a smartphone of some sort. So you can only innovate so much in terms of, I don't know what's next for what they're offering. But here a company, the name of the company is Nothing, and they're offering a new type of phone design, so to speak. The least utilized part is the back portion of your camera here. Now, in my case, I have a case here, so it's covered up, so you can't see the back portion here. But this phone has its uses here. So let's take a closer look. So according to AndroidAuthority.com, so the Nothing company reminds us that the smartphone design innovation isn't dead. So you can see the design of the phone is very different. So that's the back portion of a typical smartphone. You can see the camera module at the back, and you can see there are, is it LED strips? I'm not sure. So you can see bare bones at the back portion of the camera here. Now, it's not a high-end camera that they're offering here, but it can, it's a mid-tier phone that it can do its job really well here. So let's see here. So designing a new smartphone can be problematic, as many years, decades has passed by since the invention of the smartphone, from the Nokia days all the way to when Apple introduced the very first iPhone with a touchscreen. That's a remarkable innovation there. But from that time to the current present, the innovation in terms of technology of the phone. Yes, the better camera, better performance from the camera and the phone itself. You can play games on it, do multiple things. But at the end of the day, the design of the phone has become stagnant in a sense here. And looking at this design looks interesting here. Not necessarily that I would buy it right away. And I'm more in the phone that Samsung is offering, the foldable phone, the Z Fold, which is looks interesting here. So you have two phones in one in a sense, but obviously the price is pretty exorbitant. So would it be practical? May be a case to case basis depending on your usage here. Actually, let's take a look on a uh, let's take a look at the video. Here we're looking at Dave 2D's channel where he is reviewing the product, sort of initial impressions here. So let's start from the beginning here.
Production unit of the Nothing.
So I'll put the link in the description on his channel. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with his channel. So he talks about a lot about the tech products. But you can see here in terms of the phone, it's nothing too spectacular. I mean, it's, one would say it's mundane. You can see the back portion, but offering different multi-functionalities in the back portion, which is underutilized for the most part, because typically we tend to focus primarily on the front part of the camera, which is, the main action is, making calls, using different apps and so forth. But using the back portion to utilize it, will it be good for everyone? Obviously, it's a case-to-case basis, and you can see here, it's nothing too fancy, but they made it so that it's aesthetically pleasing as well. And let's skip ahead. He shows here in terms of, yes, here you go. You can see the lighting features here, so different strips. It would be nice that they offer RGB lighting, us who doesn't like RGB, but for this particular phone, it only offers white light here for more practical purposes here. So it uses type C cable here for power delivery. So it's nothing too fancy if you notice here. So the light is I think the additional thing that's totally different here for different applications and obviously if you're trying to have a very basic setup, a typical Apple design or color scheme, you want everything in your setup, in your workstation that's all white. I think this would fit it nicely as well here. So you can see the lighting is sort of the gimmick here if you think about it. So you can see here, you can pair it up, match it up with your different devices that has, if you like the color, the theme of color white here. Now, whether it's for everyone, obviously it's not. So they're trying to be different here. Question is, will they be selling here in Asian market here in the very near future here? But we'll see. And obviously for smartphones, they have to continuously keep on innovating. It's not just the camera. I think the battery is one of the main issues here, rather than more on the performance on the front end. And I think wouldn't it be nice that a smartphone, regardless of how heavy you use it, could last you days or even weeks rather than just a whole day? Because for the longest times, obviously we demand more from our devices, but we demand more. That's why the innovation should be more on the battery side, which we'll be talking about in a bit regarding electric vehicles as well. So we'll see if it's going to catch on, if a lot of people will be buying the Nothing Phone 1 here. Anyway, next is about Amazon though. So the company, for all its flaws that we've been discussing this, past weeks, years, and so forth, people are still using their services in terms of its subscribing because of getting a lot of benefits here. And is it still worth it even though they've slightly increased their price? Well, the fact that people are still continuing to support the company justifies the increase in price. Obviously, Amazon is not just an e-commerce platform, but they're also offering streaming services, going into films, and obviously the cloud services, which is a cash cow for them as well. So they're trying to solidify their monopoly in the marketplace here, which is not good for consumers at the end of the day. But anyway, so let's focus back on the Amazon Prime subscription here. So in the article here at techtimes.com, they mentioned that is it still ideal to get one? So let's take a look at some of its benefits. So is it still worth it? Now, take note here in Asia, in particular here in the Philippines, we don't have Amazon services because obviously we're not a very big market. Let's say in North America or even in Europe, I think they have Amazon in Japan. So it's still a big market here. But anyway, so let's see what do they have here. So if you're an Amazon Prime member, so the benefits are as follows. So first is you have free shipping with no minimum spend for selected items. Then you can have under the same day, even the 2-day delivery venture. So I think that's very compelling if you're a customer here that, getting the items quickly as soon as possible is very enticing. So you're willing to pay a subscription fee like this one. Even I would strongly recommend that if we have that. But none of the e-commerce platforms are utilizing that here in our country. But anyway, so looking further, others are also offering same-day delivery with a minimum purchase of $35. So $35 not that pretty expensive. It's trying to coax you into buying more products, not necessarily expensive items, but buying more and more items would be beneficial. Now, obviously, this does takes a toll on the logistics of providing same-day delivery service in terms of the different warehouses in your region here, which causes a lot of unrealistic expectations from the company, pushing employees to take fewer and fewer breaks and making unrealistic goals as to you have to provide produce or pack certain items in terms of productivity. Even the delivery personnels in those warehouses are pushed to their limit. Now another incentive that they provide to their subscribers is they may also share subscription to one adult, 4 teens in a single account. So typically a family. So obviously they want to capitalize. They want to capitalize on this one. Crap, why is it moving? So they can capitalize on the what do you call this? The volume of buyers here. Instead of just one person purchasing, you have the whole family, whether it's 4, 5, or even more members buying for the entire family is a catch for them. And what's interesting is they are allowing family and friends to access the feature in this one subscription. Next, they have always the freebies. Obviously, it's a catch-all to entice you to buy even more. But in this case, they provide value in terms of other services, not just the deliveries that I mentioned. So they've monopolized in terms of ebook services and in terms of Kindle. You also have unlimited photo storage and other features from the company. And I think that's a very compelling case if you're into books, and having these services fits the narrative of one-stop shop, so to speak, here. Now, not only are they offering books and products and services, gaming is also what they're trying to penetrate here. So you'll be able to access free games. One premium subscription to a streamer via Twitch is another way. So they're catering to a variety of consumers who are subscribed to their product here. And most importantly, and I think this is where having different businesses under one main big company is very important, is providing streaming services, right? Prime Video, you have Prime Music, so competing with the likes of Netflix, Disney Plus, Peacock, and those other streaming services, because obviously at the end of the day, their difference is being able to offer the Amazon Prime subscription for ordering products and services, and this is just attached to it so that they're able to compete with those big streaming services as mentioned earlier. Now, will it entice you? Well, it makes a compelling case. The problem here is what Amazon is offering in terms of the product itself. Before we even consider those other aspects, that's just additional bonus, so to speak. But the products itself, even though it may be cheap, question is how are they able to achieve that? Is it based on competing with the sellers that are within their platform, or are those sellers selling fraudulent, counterfeit products here, which is has been a big main issue. And obviously, as seller, as buyers, it's difficult to discern which is considered authentic or not. And if Amazon cannot guarantee the authenticity, then obviously it creates a lot of confusion. And when people buy, let's say, a Nike shoes, and then they bought a fake Nike shoes, then obviously customers will be disappointed, and it destroys the image of the brand that just trying to sell you the actual product here, which is why Nike at the end tried to or left the platform and just created their own platform to sell you the products, because not everyone is on the same boat as Nike. But I think Amazon can do a much better job in terms of providing better service for the customers here, not just in offering you a plethora of services, because those internal problems can and should be dealt with in a very timely manner here. But as the saying goes, if it's a cash cow for the company, they'll continue to do what they've been doing all this time here. Anyway, our next story is, as mentioned, with technology we were talking about earlier regarding the smartphone devices. The issue is, with any technology that you're so reliant on battery capacity or capability that would last you not just hours but days or even weeks, preferably. And even for EV vehicles, the adoption rate would still be considered low because of its many facet limitation, even though many car makers are now providing or making vehicles that's able to travel farther than before. But the problem is, once it's runs out of juice, how are you going to charge your vehicle here? It's not as if there are a lot of gas stations out there or charging stations, similar to how gas stations are more prominent nationwide here. But the issue with regards to gas station, not all corners of the world has gas stations galore, let alone considering the charging stations here. But not to worry, a company here is trying to be able to alleviate that issue by providing a better technology. And the issue here is the charging takes a really long time. Imagine when we used to charge our smartphones, that takes hours, or even almost 8 hours to be able to do that. So having fast charging capability is, I think, key. Improving the technology on the battery at two fronts would be tremendous here, and hopefully within my lifetime, we are able to experience that. So that the ideal here is, imagine a smartphone. If it runs out of juice, you don't have to wait for hours. You'll only have to wait minutes or even seconds, so that when you plug it in, batteries will be charged quickly, obviously safely. We don't want to have that Samsung Note debacle like before, where it caught fire. And it has mechanisms to regulate itself, so it's like PSU in your PC, so it can manage itself. It can charge quickly, and it would last you days or even weeks, if that's possible. And if you can translate that into a vehicle, that would be tremendous here. So let's look at the company here. According to CNET.com, so a company, ADS-TEC, thinks battery buffering can fix that issue, as mentioned, regarding the charging issues that takes a long time. So fast charging, as of right now, only Tesla is able to provide that. Obviously, they want to charge more for those services, and they want to capitalize or monopolize that market. So for me, again, other companies can step in and look at this if there are more people using the electric vehicles, but implementing charging stations nationwide, worldwide, is important. Because imagine a smartphone, and you go to somewhere, and let's say you forgot to charge it at home. Then when you go somewhere, it's running low. How are you able to charge it? Not all parking spaces or places that you're going to go, whether it's the mall, going to stores, going to the airport, you'll have plenty of access there. And obviously, having more charging stations would be ideal here, and charging it in a very efficient manner, or fastest manner at that here. Anyway, uh, so it mentions the charging infrastructure may be more inconsequential to the adoption of electric cars than innovation in the cars themselves. So meaning having more places to charge more quickly can play prominently in drivers' experience in the perception of EVs, which what I mentioned earlier. So creating a vast network of plentiful fast charging, keyword is fast charging, isn't a trivial effort. So as EV haters like to point out, a big construction project almost in the realm of the interstate highway system that may exceed the available power in many areas. So no matter how many cable you run or your chargers you connect to it. So the question here isn't about utility infrastructure. The question really is about available power. So obviously power comes from our grid, and the grid, how you convert that power from the grid to your devices, or in this case to your vehicle, will be the key here. Now, ADS-TEC touts the technology called battery buffering, that it says it can step up grid power at a charge location using special batteries installed in the charge equipment to connect to your car directly. So here we have a good illustration here. So you can see here on the left side is the grid power, and it's connected directly to the charging box, and then it's converted to a charging fast charging port that can fast charge your vehicle, hopefully. So meaning from 110 kilowatts coming into a battery buffered charger is doing two things. So it's building storage or power inside the charger. So it will bump up the power that goes from the charger to the car. Pretty interesting. Obviously, making it safe for for car owners, so that if they can adopt that, maybe takes minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, similar to how if you go to pull up to a gas station to fill up your vehicle with gas, if it takes the same amount of time, I think a lot more people would be more inclined to be able to using electric vehicles. But the problem is, as mentioned, you need more infrastructure laid out. A vast network of charging stations is the key to the success of more people adopting it. And obviously the safety issues of the vehicles itself, because obviously the electric vehicles component is one key problem that need to solve, but offering artificial intelligence or AI in the vehicle is a totally separate issue, which is very concerning what Tesla has offered, and the concerning repercussions it will provide down the line in terms of the accidents and death tolls that it will cause for misbranding or mismarketing their products here. But going back to the issue here, so the mention issue, main statement here, how battery buffering might turn a strained grid into one that is ready for all the EVs that you're going to use here. So we'll see. We'll see. And obviously there's still a lot of, that could take years, even decades, before you'll see a majority of vehicles on the road that are EVs, electric vehicles here. Anyway, for our last story, sticking with along the same lines of electric vehicles, in this case, we're going now to the sea. So it's not a land vehicle, but more of a yacht that we're discussing here. So what's interesting here, imagine you're using electric, or in this case, solar powered. Now, obviously for a yacht, which is expensive in itself, being able to be self-sufficient, not relying on gas-powered engine, would be ideal. And the company is making its first voyage for solar electric, the Silent 60 yacht here, using a catamaran as their base model here. So let's take a closer look. So according to electric.com, so the first voyage, so it's a 60 feet yacht. So this is a catamaran. So it's basic template, nothing too spectacular, but you can notice the solar panels attached at the top of the roof, and it's very vast. So it's ideal. Now, obviously, if you live in sunny locations like in Florida, then it's no problem here. But obviously, solar powered vehicles, whether it's in land or in sea, has significant limitation, because what if it's a cloudy day? Will it still be able to generate the necessary power that it needs to be able to run it? And I think for my perspective, I think incorporating several technologies into one would be ideal. Converting those solar powered, storing it into a battery or charging system so that it can complement whether it's gas powered, electric powered, or even solar powered here. It, wouldn't it be nice, since you're in the sea, why not use hydropower? Since hydropower is even more abundant and present, uh, present in your surroundings here, since you're running on the ocean here. Anyway, the company Silent Yachts, the solar electric boat maker, uh, showcasing in Florida as mentioned. So it's very sunny here, but not all locations have that benefit. And if it becomes cloudy, then you have there's severe limitations as to if you can gather enough solar power for your boat. Anyway, so Silent Yacht was founded by Heek and Michael Cole and have sailed over 75,000 nautical miles around the world. So their research began way back in 2004, kicking off 5 years of gathering sailing data before constructing the company's first fully self-sufficient solar-powered catamaran, the SolarWare 46. So a 5-year trial at sea began in way back in 2010. Silent Yacht had a proven solar yacht concept and began serial production of luxury sustainable vehicles. So with the Silent 64, and by 2018, the Silent 64 became the first serial production solar-powered blue water catamaran to cross Atlantic from Cartagena, Spain to Barbados in just 16 days. So this is what I mean, it looks tremendous. If it can if it can do travel long distances and charge up enough power to sustain itself. Again, at the end of the day, what will happen if there's no access to the sun on that particular day? How are you able to run your yacht in this case? And obviously, I still think at the end of the day, integrating different technologies to power up a vehicle, in this case a yacht, is still important. Relying on one technology alone will not save or will replace all other means, but and having backups is always an ideal here. So you can see here the catamaran is pretty large, so you have ample space for sunbathing in front. But if you look at the interior, this is during the lockdown way back 2020, I was fascinated watching people traveling around the world in their yachts, in families. And I think I was watching one, I forgot what channel was it. They were traveling around the world with their families in a catamaran, not like this one, but a much lesser affordable yacht that they built, renovated, and traveled around the world. Even were stuck. I think they were stuck in New Zealand at the time when I was watching. Anyway, so you can see here, it's a typical yacht that has its amenities here, but the main difference is it's powered by solar powered. And even though it's interesting, if solar power is very compelling, why is it not being translated in other devices? Imagine in cars, even in our smartphones. We haven't gotten to the part that being able to translate or transfer that energy efficiently here, and it takes a lot of solar panels to be able to do that effectively here. But obviously, the cost is another major hurdle that needs to be considered here. So it mentions here that the starting price is just over a little close to $3 million, so which is not cheap as mentioned here. That's why many other prospective buyers are looking for second-hand catamarans and trying to renovate it or fix upper, so to speak, so that they could travel all around the world, save a lot of money. And obviously, a yacht is a depreciating value that loses its value as time goes by. Even the biggest yachts in the world, no matter how much money they spend on it, the fact that it's exposed to the elements in the sea, depletes its values, and it's deteriorating as the moment that you set sail in your yacht here, no matter how small or how big the yacht is here. Now, obviously, the design is remarkable, but the question here is, will it cater to a lot of people here? Now, if you look here at the interiors, it looks pretty luxurious. You have a dinner table outside. You can look at the view. Then there's internal settings for formal dining and formal kitchen there. And then going to the left here, I think there's a stairs going down left or right. You can see the quarters here. There's the other room. There are front and back sides. So it's pretty spacious here. So I think it has four sides, is what I remember. So you can have four rooms, or depending if you want to have just one room on each side, two rooms for the main couple or a visitor or maybe even the family. Then you can have different configurations. You have, instead of having a double bed, maybe bunk beds here, two single beds, and then there's a common toilet here, then another room with their own ensuite bath and so forth. And then obviously the view is spectacular here. Imagine if you have that, in your vacation here. Now, I think one of the channels that I was following before is Aquaholics, wherein he goes on a tour similar to how house tours, like typical how MTV Cribs does theirs. They do tours on the interiors of one like this one, the catamaran. So different sizes, different configurations. I like watching the interiors of how they maximize the space of a particular design, and obviously the price tag is way out of my league. But it's pretty interesting how they maximize in terms of usage for the passengers, and then if they have crew, from the captain to the service crew, and then to the access to the engine and so forth. It's pretty interesting here, but at exorbitant prices here. Anyway, so will the solar powered yacht catch on? Obviously, there will be a niche market for it, but there's still a lot of issues, as mentioned throughout this stream that we've been discussing, from limitations of its capacity and its fast charging capability, and the abundance of where you draw those energy, whether it's from the grid or from the solar, from the sun, or even from everywhere else. And at the end of the day, the question here is, how can you make it sustainable, that's easy to replace, and that can be used quickly, rather than takes forever for one to be able to utilize them. Anyway, I think that's about it for this week's episode. Anyway, thank you again for joining me today. Come back again next week. Hopefully this time we'll be on time for our next live stream. Come back again on next Friday. Same time, same channel, for more business news here. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.